You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
All right, so this video that I put together is to showcase some of the things that I've talked about over the years that I have been on this platform. When it came to the system, when it came to the separation of the family unit within the Black community, where the government deliberately did certain things in order to push or force or coerce the father directly out of the household. Therefore, creating a system in which Black women are dependent on the government in order to facilitate their every need when it comes to the home, when it comes to themselves, when it comes to the children, when it comes to child care, when it comes to teaching, when it comes to protection, when it comes to a lot of these things. And I made sure to put together this video so that those out there that always want to give some type of pushback, those out there that always want to run their mouths and have issues with the information that I am stating as a Black man, I put it together in such a way that you can't argue with me. You're going to have to argue with the truth and the facts and yourself.
As a Black woman who has a small business, a homeowner, I just want to say that these kind of initiatives become a little bit concerning. And the reason that they're concerning for me is because I know the infrastructure of white supremacy. And one of the biggest infrastructures of white supremacy is separating the Black family. That's number one. That's since Black folks was coming to America, they was ripping us up. If a Black woman was on welfare, she could not have a man living in the house.
The man in the house rule was written to prevent welfare cheating, to make sure that aid to families with dependent children would go only to families headed by mothers. But the effect of the man in the house rule is to create for children an atmosphere of investigation and surveillance, and thus the welfare system in its operation turns out to be a system to make life harder for children.
The welfare system helps the disintegration of the American family. It offers money to families if the fathers will leave them and stay away, in that sense undoing the very stability of the family and taking away one of the two parents that children, of course, need. And what I have seen, I'm afraid to say, all over the country is that the legal system works against the best kind of home for these children.
That means that even if your baby daddy was with you, even if you wanted to marry him, the government said, I will not give you any assistance if your man is living in the house. If I see him in the house, I'm not giving you any help.
The welfare department had a rule that no able-bodied man could be in the house if a woman received aid for dependent children. If a man lost his job, if he's looking for work, he still had to leave the home. And there was even a night staff of men who worked for the welfare department whose job was to go to the homes of the welfare recipients, and they searched to find if there was a man in the home. Sometimes men came back at night to be with their families. Some were found in the closet hiding.
Now, we fast forward now to 2023. They're saying that we have billions of dollars for the Black woman. Well, what about her Black son, her Black husband, her Black brother? You cannot keep separating us. We come as a unit.
My mother and father discussed it, and they decided that it was best for the 12 children for the father to leave the home. And that's how we got into the projects.
Now, I know a lot of you Black women think you riding alone and you'll ride or die by yourself and you by yourself. Baby, it was by design you by yourself. No, even God used people to carry out his agenda. What makes you think you want to be by yourself?
Raise your hand if you're married. None of you are married. Raise your hand if you would like to be married to your baby's father. 1. The rest of you who don't plan to get married, why don't you plan to get married? I'd like to know that.
You already have your child to think about, and then a whole family to care for. You know, it's a lot of responsibility, and then you don't want the commitments.
I wouldn't want no man holding me down because I think I can make it as a single parent.
It was by design, you by yourself.
But don't you think you might need help in raising that baby from a man?
Not really. I didn't have a father.
The policy and the housing authority was to move the poorest of the poor, the most dependent families, to Pruitt-Igoe.
Before we moved into Pruitt-Igoe, the welfare department came to our home. They talked with my mother about moving into the housing project, but the stipulation was that my father could not be with us. They would put us into the housing project only if he left the state.
My father wasn't in the home, so, you know, it really, male figures are not substantially important in the family.
And my son, he was a young man. I count on him. You hear me? He helped me in my household. I don't live with a man. I live with me and my 4 children. He was the man of the house. That's who helped me.
So shout out to anybody who actually made it this far, because normally people don't make it this far in the video. And also shout out to any of those who were in the live stream when I also went over this information. And I told you guys that I had a video specifically pertaining to all of this. It just took a little bit more time to put together. So as she clearly told you, what was the problem with everything that was happening, right? So these are the main things that are happening. Black women's wealth is 90% lower than white men. Goldman Sachs is investing billions to change that. Goldman plans $10 billion initiative into support of Black women. JP Morgan Chase commits $30 million to help close the wealth gap for Black and Latina women. Goldman Sachs invests $2 billion in Black women-owned businesses, the first chapter of a bigger plan, right? Now, when you look at this, right, you would in a sense think like, yo, this is awesome, right? Black women are getting support. They are getting shown, you know, the love and everything that they need, right? They have, you know, people believing in them, people actually investing, right? But the problem you have to look at is that why is it that all of these companies would primarily and only predominantly specifically target Black women, right? Why wouldn't they, in a sense, do this for both, right? If we have an epidemic in the community, right, dealing with Black men, you know, a jobless situation, lack of education, lack of funding for, you know, investments, Black male entrepreneurs and different things of that nature, one would think that if you would want to really support a community, you would especially, you know, help out the man in the community, so that by the man being uplifted and being at a certain area where he's able to provide and do a lot of things, then you're going to have the trickle down effect where it's going to affect the rest of the community, right? But again, then you would also have on this layer too, which you would have the help, you know, taking place with Black women. So you would have both of those demographics, both prospering, right? Both getting the funding and the money that they need. And yet again, you will still have that same trickle down effect, which would be for the betterment of the community. But what they're basically showing you here is the main thing that they've always been going after, right? Pushing the man directly out, pushing the Black male representative out, pushing out the quote unquote breadwinner, right? So you're pushing out the money, pushing out the protection, pushing out the leadership, pushing out the masculinity, pushing out any you know, fostering of a healthy, you know, marriage and or relationship, or the positive rearing of a child. You're pushing all of that out in order to come in and give Black women what it is that they say that they need, but it's not realistically what the community needs. And what I mean by that is the fact of, look at the parts that are in red, right? So realistically, Black women didn't even need the white corporations, the banks or whatever, to invest money in them, because black women have always had this money. It's just that they selectively choose what it is that they want to put money directly into, right? So the red parts, the global black hair market was worth $2.5 billion in 2020. Each year, black women spend billions of dollars on beauty and personal care products. Black women spend 9 times more on ethnic hair products than non-black consumers of both genders. The black dollar makes up 85.7% of the ethnic hair and beauty market. Black consumers spend $54.4 million on ethnic hair and beauty products out of the $63.5 million in total spending on this category. In 2018, black consumers spent $473 million on hair products, which is 11.3% of the sales for the $4.2 billion hair care industry, right? And they said the hair care industry, $4.2 billion, right? Go down to the bottom. Black women spend $1.1 billion annually on wigs, weaves, and extensions. So even if, let's not even look at the full 10 billion, right? If black women in general, or at least in enough of a mass, were to just say like, hey, you know what, just for about 2 years so that we can save up money and we can invest in ourselves, do the things that we need to do, have that type of ownership, have that type of black woman representation. Hey, we're going to stop buying all of this hair product stuff. We're going to stop pushing our money into these markets. We're going to keep it in-house so that we can invest in ourselves. They could easily, within 2 years, they could easily have that $2 billion that Goldman Sachs stated that they were going to invest into black women. And if you take that to even a smaller scale, the money that JP Morgan was going to commit to black women, I'm sorry, black and Latino women, black women could easily have that 30 million in less than a year, way less. Right? So, like I said before, black women literally have the power to do a lot of these things. This is almost the same thing that the woman was stating in the beginning, right? She was stating all of this, and she was trying to directly tell you how it is that this is an effect. This is why, you know, I placed the video exactly how I placed it to, in a sense, tell that story and to further help her expound upon what it is that she was trying to relate directly when it came to the topic of these banks and these systems literally handing black women free money. Like I said, black women aren't, in general, black women aren't seeing an issue that they're just getting handed money by these corporations. Usually, right, if people are going to invest in somebody, it's a symbiotic relationship. Usually, if somebody's going to get handed some money, there's usually something attached to it, or there's usually a reason because they might be owed that type of money. In none of these instances, that's not the case here. There's no type of partnership between the banks and black women in a sense realistically aren't owed this money. So again, what would be the real reason for black women to be getting handed billions upon billions upon billions of dollars? Like I said, so, you know, at the end of the day, black women, you know, I don't know what to tell y'all. If y'all think that as a black man I'm just jealous, or that we as black men are jealous of the fact that you guys are getting money and y'all want to consider us dusty and broken, all this other, go right ahead. Like I said, no problem. It is what it is. I ain't even about to sit up there and argue with you, because it's going to be a waste of time. Because if you can't clearly see exactly what the agenda is, what it is that they have been doing consistently, even historically, from some of the videos that have been shown, both from the 60s standpoint and probably what, the 60s, 70s, and also the 80s, if you don't see where that has basically led to this point and how it has created this type of independent black woman, and where it is that the community is at this moment in time, where it is that the kids are, it ain't nothing I can say for you.